Apparently those two name categories scream masculinity. I don't know. I am having such a good time. I'm obsessed. This is so fun. Like, I don't really understand why this would be in the story at all. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Leandra the TBR0, and this is a vlog dedicated to Bree from Loc'd Booktician. Everyone should know who she is because she's amazing, she's hilarious, she's insightful, and she just has so much to give to the booktube community. If you don't know who she is, don't worry, there is time to find out. I will have her linked below. Check out her channel, especially if you like vlogs. I mean, you clicked on my vlog, so I imagine you like vlogs, and hers are so good. They're so entertaining. The B-roll is on point, and I just find her to be such an entertaining and genuine person. Okay, enough gushing for the moment. Another reason why I am doing this vlog and why I'm highlighting Bree in general is because she's the creator of two different readathons. One of them is Blackoween. It's in October every single year, and that's just around the corner. So keep an eye out for that announcement video, and trust me, while TBR Harvest is coming back, that's a readathon I do in October, you can do both. Trust me, you can do both, and you will be happier for it because the two will just bring even larger community, even larger recommendations from both ends of the spectrum. So just try to do both if you can, and if not, I won't begrudge you if you do Blackoween because it really is amazing. The other readathon that she does is an extension, a companion to Blackoween. It's a bit of a mini version and it happens in July. It's called July Noir. This year it's happening in the latter half of July, so the last 2 weeks of the month, and I'm participating for the final week of it because life was so busy. I meant to participate in both weeks, but you know how life goes. And so this week I plan on reading as many books by Black authors as I can. Most of them are recommendations and are approved by Bree herself, hence the title of this video, but I'm also hoping to sneak in a few recommendations of my own. There are a couple titles that she hasn't read. I know, what a concept. Isn't that kind of crazy? I was surprised. And so I'm hoping I can recommend a couple of them to her. We'll see what happens. But let's introduce the concept of July Noir and what I'm going to be reading as my first book for the vlog. So she has this really lovely map. I'll have it here or maybe just somewhere on the screen where you have various locations on this map that you can explore. One of the new additions is called Shishi Kitchen, and it's in honor of Bree's mom. It's really lovely that she's created this location in honor of her mother, especially because it expands the opportunities to explore different types of reads by Black authors. So we have a prompt for romance, we have a prompt for historical, for cozy, for mystery, and so I do think that Shishi Kitchen works best for me. Even though I like the horror, I like the spooky stuff, I have a few books on my radar that just fit for Shishi Kitchen most, and so that's the location I'm going to be exploring throughout this week. The first prompt I'm going to work on just happens to be the top prompt for the graphic, and that is to read something historical, spooky, and is it romantic? I think that's what the three are, and the book I've decided to go for that for the moment is The Scourge Between Stars. This is by Ness Brown, and it seems to be a novella. I only have access to the audio. No, that's a lie. I have access to the ebook too, so I could totally immersively read. Shout out to Libby, because that is why we have access to so many different things, not only physically, but the fact that Libby is such a great resource. Check out your library, support your libraries, because Libby is truly a godsend. So I will be reading The Scourge Between Stars. This is a horror, sci-fi. It's also a bit of like a space opera in the sense that we are on a ship and they are traveling, trying to get to Earth, but it seems like there is a creepy, crawly alien creature in their midst. I don't know much more. I don't want to know much more. I kind of want to go in blind, but I have liked sci-fi horror in the past. I've liked Dead Silence. I wasn't the biggest fan of, what was it called? Ghost Station, that's what it is. And both of those books are by S.A. Barnes. That's pretty much the author I have to thank to get me into sci-fi horror, but there are so many authors I need to try, including Ness Brown. So we're going to go into this kind of blind. We'll see if I even feel like breaking to give you a mid-book update. I'll make sure to do that. I'll be a responsible vlogger, don't worry. But I'm really excited for this title, and I'm so excited to finally get it off of my TBR backlist because it has been quite some time, and I mean, what was I waiting for? July Noir, apparently. All right, I'm off to go start this book. I'm very excited, and we'll see what else I get up to this week. I am officially halfway through The Scourge Between Stars by Ness Brown, and I'm really enjoying my time. This is exactly what I mean when I say that I was craving a sci-fi horror. It's very fast-paced. Yes, being a novella, not everything's gonna be fleshed out. I'm probably gonna have questions. I'm probably gonna wish I had a little bit more from the author, a little bit more from the characters, but for the amount of time I'm spending with these characters, for what I'm getting out of it, for now, I'm probably pretty happy with it. I'm feeling like it's going to be 4-star range, which is great, and it is flying by. Jack is our captain. Well, she's the second in command. Her father is meant to be the captain of the Calypso, and he seems to have been a bit MIA at the moment. They are grieving. Her family is grieving, not only with the loss of her mother, but her sister as well. And they're all just trying to survive. There was a colony on a far-off planet that pretty much failed. And now Jack, her father, the rest of the crew are trying to get everyone back to Earth, their original home. And there's a question of, will they even make it? Now, on top of that, they have lost contact with a number of ships, and those ships are now sending these really eerie messages warning people to not open the door. Don't open the door, and then you are pretty certain that all of these people are dying horrific deaths. So now Jack and everyone else on board are wondering what is happening, what's going on. Recently, she's also been hearing banging through the walls as if something is crawling in the walls and chasing her. Someone has gone missing, one of the other crew members, and now they're beginning to think, are we being hunted? Did we open the door unintentionally and now there is a non-human alien on board that is trying to kill us? There is some gore, so keep that in mind. There's some body horror, and there also is just a lot of trauma. There's a lot of grief because, like I said, Jack is mourning her sister and her mother, who both died under different circumstances, but that's still something that Jack is carrying with her. So yeah, there's just a lot going on. There is a little bit of a romance. Jack is having this kind of fling with Jolie, and it seems like they both want more, but I guess in the circumstances that they're in, it's really hard to commit oneself when you're thinking, is the human race going to die? Is Calypso even going to make it to Earth? Doesn't matter if we're in a relationship or not. So there is something going on there, but it's been very subtle. There have only been a couple moments, and Jack does seem like a pretty capable character while also just running on emotions. She is questioning herself. Really, it should be her father in charge. I'm waiting for the day that she opens his captain's door, open his room, to then finally barge in, because really what she's been doing is just like knocking on his door, sending, like shouting to him through the wall, through the door, the various, information that he may need, updates on the ship, on the crew. There have been riots. There has been a recent coup and uprising as well, especially because Jack has had to make some pretty big decisions that led to the loss of some of the people on board, but the reason why she did it was to save more people, to save the entire ship. So there's a lot going on. Meanwhile, there's an alien loose on board. My question is, how did this alien get on board? Has it been on the ship the entire time? If so, what has made it be in hibernation and not really kind of show its ugly head? I also am a little bit worried that we're gonna have an ambiguous ending, or there's just gonna be a lot of questions left over, because like I said, this is a very short narrative. It's a novella, and the audio is only about 5 hours, and that also means I feel pretty confident I'm probably gonna finish it today. I actually had to stop myself from reading any further because I was thinking, I'm 50% through. How long can I wait to finally update you all before I just call it quits and decide to let you know, hey, by the way, I finished the book. So at the moment, this is what I need. I need a fast-paced sci-fi horror and an alien on board who kind of can, chew on some organs, tear people apart, call it all in a day's work. I'm kind of here for it. I'm really here for it. So we'll see if it sticks the landing. But so far, I agree with Bree that this is a really fun narrative, and I definitely want to try more by this author, especially if it ends as satisfactory as I'm hoping it's going to be. All right, friends, it's time for another update. Please ignore the laundry that is peeking inside the frame. I was in the middle of folding it, and then I realized, Leandra, when was the last time you updated for this vlog? Because not only have you finished the book that you were talking about last, but you've since started another one, and you're probably going to want to update the people sooner rather than later. So here I am. Let's backtrack. Last night I ended up finishing The Scourge Between Stars, and it was really fun. It was exactly what I needed, a very quick, action-packed sci-fi horror that is very reminiscent of Alien, that franchise involving Sigourney Weaver, and I really think that a lot of people could just pick it up, think nothing just enjoy the wild ride that it is, because there are some crazy reveals, and the way it all wraps up and everything, you just don't look into it. Don't look into it. Just have a good time. A lot of people die. It's terrifying. There are aliens. It really is for a good time, not a long time. And I think that that's perfect. We need books like that. And so I'm definitely going to be recommending Ness Brown, specifically this title, to other people. And in particular, because this vlog is coming out in August, I'm not sure if anyone is participating in Garb August who's watching this, but this is a readathon hosted by Criminali, and I think that The Scourge Between Stars is a perfect option, especially if you're looking to diversify the types of books that you're picking up during August. Check this out. Like I said, it's a really quick read. Either you're going to sit down and read it in one sitting, or if you've got audio, you're going to finish it within 48 hours. Obviously, that means that we kicked off this vlog with a Loc'd Booktician and Leandra the TBR0 approved title. I'm pretty proud and pretty happy with that. And now we're moving on to the next book. Hopefully we have the same results. This time around, I'm taking more of a risk. Now, sci-fi, horror, those are in my wheelhouse, which is why I wasn't nervous about The Scourge Between Stars. I figured that I would have a really great romp with it. But this next book is very, very much outside of my comfort zone, and that is The Romantic Agenda. This is by Claire Kahn, and while it's out of my comfort zone, it is a title that I have interacted with, we'll say, in the last year. So I participated in Battle of the Booktuber last year. I'm in the championship round right now. By the time this vlog comes out, it's either wrapped up or it's about to have its live show where we reveal who actually is the best recommender on BookTube. Anyways, check out the description. I'll have all the info there if you want to catch up. But the reason why I know of The Romantic Agenda in the first place is because last year I recommended it to Nell's Next Chapter. She was one of my competitors in round 1, and she ended up loving it. She gave it 5 stars. She had a great time with this title, and it makes me now very intrigued by it. The reason why I recommended it to Nell is because she read Ace, which is a nonfiction title, and she was obsessed. She said it was so good. I've wanted to read it for quite some time, and now knowing that The Romantic Agenda features Ace representation amongst multiple characters, that also really intrigues me. And obviously Brie, Loc'd Booktician, said that it was a great option and said that the Ace rep is really, really well done. So, I mean, say no more. I'm currently 25% of the way through the audiobook, and I'm really enjoying it. It is very fun. You have to just accept that it's very contemporary because it is a contemporary romance. And I will say that romance and contemporary fiction, both of those things are outside of my wheelhouse. I don't really dive into them very often, but I've just decided that this is going to be a fun read, and it is. I'm really enjoying it. It's perfect for summer because we have our main character, Joy, her friend Malcolm that she is secretly in love with. They're both ace, and she's really struggling with the fact that he is in love and trying to start a relationship with another woman named Summer, who is a friend for now, but this big trip, he's hoping that it will spark things, move their relationship forward so that he and Summer can be together. Summer brings her best friend Fox, and now the 4 of them are at this cabin. They are camping, and this is pretty much the worst case scenario. This is hell on earth for Joy, because not only is she watching Malcolm falling in love with Summer and trying to see if Summer feels the same way about him, but she is also not a camper. She hates camping so much, and so I can just really vibe with her. I can feel for her, because while I love hiking, I'm not a big camping kind of person either. So I do feel as though I identify with her in multiple ways. And I think that the friend group is kind of interesting, the dynamic. Fox is obviously going to be her love interest, and I do like their dynamic. I think he has a really good energy in the way that he reacts to Joy. We're gonna see how it goes, but I'm very tentative. Just know that I've had a lot of fails this year, specifically in the romance genre. So if this doesn't work for me, it absolutely does not speak to Brie's recommendations. Loc'd Booktician really can't go wrong. I'm telling you this, she cannot go wrong. And so if this doesn't work for me, it's simply because I don't read romance. But for now, I'm very pleased. I'm having a great time. I'll let you know if I finish the book or if I feel the need to provide another mid-book update. But I also have to get other things sorted today. I've got more laundry and more like cleaning to do around my apartment because I've been neglecting it. I kind of want to go for a walk later this evening. We'll see if that comes to fruition. And in less than an hour, I'm hosting Only Christie and the Book Club Sprints. That's for the Manor. It's for my sleuths. And we're reading Death on the Nile this month. So I am going to have to put down The Romantic Agenda for a brief period of time. We'll see when I get back to it. I am currently watching reading sprints with Brie, Loc'd Booktician. I think these are her closing sprints, even though we have until Sunday to finish our reads. And then even with July Noir ending, we can keep reading. Of course, we can keep reading. The readathon ends, but our reading will never end. I also am feeling very atmospheric because there is a storm brewing outside and I am getting jumpy. Like the wind is picking up, and there have been times where I've paused to look out the window and just kind of collect myself. So this is the perfect time to be reading for July Noir. Now, am I reading a spooky book? No. Did I finish the romance I was reading? Yes. So I'm making progress in Tula's Parish, specifically Shishi Kitchen. I actually don't think I've updated the board in quite some time, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so for the Scourge Between Stars, I decided to put that for historical, spooky, or romance, and then just following that down unintentionally, we have backlisted romance. I think that's perfect for the romantic agenda. It's been out for some time. It's been on my TBR for some time, simply because I had it on my radar for over a year at this point, never picked it up, and now I have officially finished it. So we can check off 2 of those prompts. And you know what? It wasn't for me simply because it is a contemporary romance. It has certain tropes that don't work for me. I am not someone who can stay with a romance for a prolonged period of time. I think that that's just something that I have to get used to, even though I keep picking up romances. And once in a while, a romance will work for me, not as a subplot, but as the full-on plot. And I am grateful for that. But for some reason, I'm just not as invested, and it's really rare to give a book like that 4 or 5 stars. For this one, though, I think everyone, especially those who like romances, should be giving this a shot, because I agree with Bree. I agree with everyone else advocating for this title that the ace representation is fascinating, it's well done, and it provides variety. Because not only is Joy our main character ace, but so is Malcolm, her best friend, the man that she has fallen in love with time and time again, and yet they just have never pulled the trigger and decided to have a relationship with each other, mainly because they don't talk. They talk openly about everything else, and yet this is the one thing neither of them have ever discussed, hence why we have a book plot in the first place. Because obviously Joy is trying to prove to Malcolm that she's the perfect person for him. He wants to be with Summer. Summer brings Fox along, and now we have, you know, this entanglement of the ages. I did enjoy Fox. I continue to enjoy him throughout the entire book, especially the way he interacts with Joy, the way he supports her, he listens to her. They really complement each other in a great way. Is it weird that he has an animal for a name? I mean, for me, yes, but we have to be honest with ourselves. In contemporary romances, in rom-coms, any modern romance these days, it is not surprising to see a romantic lead named after animals or a dead American president. What is going on here? Apparently, those 2 name categories scream masculinity. I don't know, but I digress. Even though I really liked Fox and Joy, I also found myself really frustrated at times, and there was a moment where I thought about DNFing. I'm gonna admit it. I'm going to admit it. I'm glad I didn't, and that's really rare for me to say, but the reasons for that had nothing to do with Joy, had nothing to do with Fox, had nothing to do with the representation. I actually loved some of the tropes in this book. I love fake dating, which is kind of weird, especially when I'm about to say the next thing that kind of bugged me, but I also love a destination romance, a destination anything, whether it's like a seclusion for a mystery, for a thriller, a horror. I also like a secluded romance. Basically allows us to have a narrowed perspective, and it explains why the characters are spending so much time with each other, because in real life, you spending day in, day out with one person, it's just not usually what happens. But let's get to the things that didn't work for me. One thing in particular is that this happens so often in romances in general. For me, whenever I'm reading the dialogue, the scenarios, the way that characters are interpreting situations, they are supposed to be in their late 20s, early 30s, and yet on the page, it feels like they're all 20 years old. It all feels like they're far more immature than they should be, that they have far less experience in the world than they should be, and it just begins to grate on me. These people have been in their careers for 10, 15 years. They have lives, they have a mortgage, they have a bunch of things, and yet the way that they treat scenarios and other people it makes me feel like they are either still in high school or in college, just in their early 20s in general. And I definitely had that vibe in this book at times. And more importantly, I found Malcolm and Summer to really grate on me when they aren't meant to be the enemy. They aren't meant to be villains. They aren't supposed to be these horrible characters that we hate. And I didn't hate them, but I did find them so frustrating, especially Malcolm, this person that Joy keeps saying to herself and others that he is the perfect man for her. And I just kept thinking, honey, no, he's not. I just don't think that they really work together. Some of his own mindsets, like going into scenarios, he was a bit controlling, I would say. I don't know. He gave me bad vibes, and I just didn't think that they were good friends. I felt as though it was a little bit forced that they were close simply because they've known each other for so long. That's how they knew each other well, not because they actually were good together. But you know what? I finished it, and that sounds crazy, but that in itself, it shows high marks for this book, because out of the maybe like 8 to 9 romances I've picked up this year, I've only finished maybe 2. I typically DNF them very quickly. I just keep trying. I keep trying. What can I say? I want to be someone who reads romance, and I'm still trying. Moving on, because I do actually want to read a good amount during this sprint, I am picking up The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Jelly Clark. This is going to be my first experience with this author. I'm very, very excited, and I love that I'm switching things up yet again. We had sci-fi horror, then we had a romance, and now we have fantasy. This is a title that has been on my radar ever since, I'm pretty sure it was on the Goodreads Choice Awards, didn't get to it, and it's pretty short, which intrigues me because, one, I love a shorter book. I'm not someone who reads chunky narratives very often, but the fact that it's so well loved and being a shorter fantasy, I'm excited. And I mean, not that it has to do with cats, but I do love cats, so that is a bonus. The question is, what am I going to count this for She Kitchen? So female chef baker cozy, this doesn't fit for that. Published by an older Black woman or an older protagonist. I don't believe that there's an older protagonist here. There might be though. Spicy paranormal, no. Book written by a Black woman, no. So really this book doesn't fit for anything. I'm reading it anyway. I don't care. It was Brie approved. When I said it on Sprints, both she and a few other people said, oh my gosh, a great book, a great author, can't wait. So you know what? It just goes to show you that you don't have to really fulfill the prompts, because I am fulfilling the experience of July Noir. I am trying a new to me Black author that is really well loved actually. So it's more, what am I doing? Why am I so late to the party? And I'm very, very excited. I might, check to see if this fits for any other, area in Tula's parish, because, we could have like the Noir Apothecary, a few other places that it could work. But yeah, unfortunately, I've just discovered that I don't think it's gonna fit for She Kitchen. And that's okay. I don't mind. I'm going to be reading it anyway. I have a feeling that it's going to be my favorite book of the vlog, but we'll have to find out. It is the final day of July Noir, and I am 29% of the way through The Dead Cattail Assassins. I'm only 3 chapters in. There are 9 chapters in total, which kind of makes sense. I'm a third of the way through the book, so I feel like this is a good time to pause and let you know that I am having such a good time. I'm obsessed. This is so fun. I'm loving the pacing. I'm really, really enjoying the narrative style. The dialogue is a mixture of shock factor, but also humor, us getting to know like the vulnerable aspects of Avine, our main character, and how her life is just completely turned upside down. And by life, I mean her death, because she is an assassin that was raised from the dead. And in that exchange, she basically accepts that I am not allowed to remember my identity, any memories from my past. I'm not supposed to know maybe does she know how she dies? I actually don't know if she would, because she has kind of skirted around that discussion. Someone asked her, how did you die? And we quickly move on. So I don't know if she's even allowed to remember that, but she works for this, group of assassins. They are the Dead Cattails, and she has just been given a new assignment. She is meant to follow this coin to its owner and kill the person at the end of this journey, but things don't go as planned. I am someone who isn't against the idea of spoilers. I know they exist. It's not like I view them as, you know, unicorns. I don't want to insult the existence of spoilers, but usually I don't feel as though spoilers impact a reading experience, or at least they shouldn't. If they do, it's either the reader's problem or it's the author's fault. Why are they so dependent on a spoiler making or breaking a book? Anyway, that's for another discussion, another video. But I do recognize that there were some reveals very early on that I was like, oh my gosh. I have no idea if it's in the synopsis because I haven't read the synopsis, but I went into this book so blind, and I think it was by the end of chapter 1 or maybe chapter 2, something happens and I'm just like, okay, this is really interesting. Okay, so when she ends up getting this assignment, she goes off in search of this person, and Avine, by the way, is a name that she's given herself because she's not even allowed to remember her name. She just likes the sound of Avine. So when she goes off to what looks to be kind of a compound, a mansion, there are guards everywhere, obviously protecting the person who is at the, you know, top floor in a bedroom. When she arrives, she discovers that the person in the bed is this little girl, or at least I thought she was a little girl. That's the one thing that keeps tripping me up, because I also have the audiobook. It's really well done. The only thing is, I feel as though the voice and the, you know, declaration of dialogue, the performance of dialogue, I should say, is a little bit young. I truly thought that the person in the bed was like 12 years old. I swear, I thought she was 12, maybe 13. Turns out she's actually 19 years old. Her name is Sienna. She goes by the nickname Sky because she's got these beautiful blue braids. And when Avine comes face to face with Sky, she realizes she can't kill her. Something goes on in Avine's head. I'm not going to go into detail because this was one of the elements that I thought was really fun to just enter blindly. What I can say is that Avine instead saves Sky, gets her away from her captors, and now they have to figure out what to do next. Who put this hit out on Sky? Why would they do that to this 19-year-old girl? And what they do is go to the source. So Avine takes Sky to Fennis, a man who works for the same goddess of assassins, and he's also the one who gave Avine the assignment in the first place, and his mind is blown as well. He doesn't understand what could be so big. Why would someone pay so much money, especially because they paid extra to remain anonymous? So the three of them, at this point in the story, a third of the way through the book, are simply trying to figure out who tried to assassinate this young girl and what is Avine's connection to her. So I'm really enjoying the narrative style. I'm having a great time. Like I said, the only criticism I have is possibly due to the delivery of the voice narrator, the voice that she decided to assign Sky, because it's very nasally and high-pitched. On top of her delivery, it just sounds like she's very young. And obviously that's just a personal problem that I'm having with the performance, but everything else is peak entertainment, and I'm intrigued. I'm really enjoying that this is all happening during a festival as well. It's adding an extra texture to the world building and just the chaos with everyone wearing costumes, and also the fact that there are gods and goddesses. And that's another really big issue that Avine is having, because as an assassin for this goddess, she has rules that she has to follow, and the third rule especially is to follow through with the assignment. She absolutely has to kill Sky, or horrible things happen. What are those horrible things? I mean, I'm gonna have to find out. I'm gonna have to keep reading, and I'm determined. I think I'm gonna finish this today, the last day of July in Noir, which is perfect, because then maybe I could squeeze in 1 or 2 books that Brie hasn't read, at least as of filming this, and I could recommend them back to her. I'm having such a good time, and this is probably gonna be my favorite book, as I expected, among the others I've read in this vlog, but we'll see what happens. I've also moved things around for Shishi Kitchen so that this can actually count for that location. So for the spooky historical romance, I am going to put the Dead Cattail Assassins, simply because it is a little bit spooky. Again, with the festival, with the fact that our main character, Avine, is a dead assassin. She is a corpse that has, you know, risen from the dead to work for this goddess. I think that gives us the spooky vibes, while also just being very heavily fantasy and kind of an adventure. Then we have for romance, romantic agenda, and so I've decided to move around the Scourge Between Stars, and I'm placing it down where we have a book by a Black woman author. Woohoo! Sounds good. Like I said, my plan is to read this all for the rest of the day, and hopefully I can get back to you ASAP. I just finished! It was so good. Okay, I'm gonna give myself time to reflect on everything that happened, the ending, all of the reveals, but this was so fun, and oh my gosh, what a really great ending. I can't wait to keep reading more books by this author. Oh gosh, we knew it was gonna be good. We knew it was gonna be good, but oh my gosh. Okay, anyways, I just wanted to pause because I just finished it a minute ago. I'm about to read the acknowledgements, and then I'll probably update you guys tomorrow just to give you my thoughts at a better time when I am not flooded with emotions, but so good. I am surrounded by books, so we are just going to have to accept the chaos around me as I provide another update for July Noir, which has sadly ended. It is over, and while we had a great time, I'm not done yet because I still have the goal of providing recommendations to Brie herself, especially because she gave me such good books. I had such a great time with every single book I read, namely The Dead Cattail Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. This was so good. It was so entertaining. I think it was the perfect amount of length as well, just over 200 pages. I really loved following Avene because she's a complex character. She is dead while also being an assassin, a bit rough around the edges. She doesn't have any memory of her past, which is something that she also carries with her, the hollowness of not really knowing where she comes from, why she is the way that she is. And on top of that, in this fantasy world, we have a little bit of a mystery element because at the end of the day, they're trying to figure out who wants Sky dead. The person that Avene is supposed to kill has been assigned to kill by the goddess herself, and that is just really fascinating to see them traipsing across the city trying to keep Sky and herself safe while other dead things are attacking them. It's just a really fun romp. I really enjoyed it, super fast paced, and I also understand Brie and others kind of being a bit bittersweet about the fact that this is a standalone. You really enjoy it, but you also understandably would love to see a second book, a third book come out, and I don't really see Clark ever doing that, but yeah, it was a really great time. So for those watching, if you've had this book on your TBR, on your shelves, on your mind for quite some time, but you haven't actually pulled the trigger and decided to read it, this is your sign. Pick up The Dead Cattail Assassins. It is really, really fun. It's hilarious while also having that fun action, a bit of gore, a bit of darkness. And the ending, the tropes and the structure of the ending are some of my favorite things to see in literature. That's all I'll say. And on that note, while we're celebrating, I also have to accept that I've got some pretty big shoes to fill because the 3 books that I read for this vlog all were really well done. Even my least favorite, which is The Romantic Agenda, it's simply because it's a romance and I don't typically vibe with that genre. It's still my maybe second or third best romance of the year. So, try that out if you are a romance reader. And then with The Scourge Between Stars, exactly what I needed. The palette cleanser that I needed in the moment, also fast-paced, just a really fun time, very reminiscent of Alien. And then we have the star of the show, which was The Dead Cattail Assassins. So that list, I mean, how can I compete? And it's not even a competition because really I'm just trying to recommend books to Brie as a thank you. And the book I picked up, I currently think is a winner. We'll see how it goes, how it finishes, but I am currently 40% of the way through A Murder for Miss Hortense. This is a debut novel by Mel Pennant. It's a mystery that has been compared to the Thursday Murder Club, which I know can make people hesitant, either because they weren't fans of the Thursday Murder Club or every modern mystery these days that especially has elderly sleuths is compared to the Thursday Murder Club. So it's really a lose-lose situation. But I am someone who DNF'd the second book in the Thursday Murder Club. I understand why the series is very popular, specifically when the first book came out. I think the world needed a book like that, a book written by Richard Osman in the way that it was written, but it just still didn't work for me. With that said, I am having such a good time with A Murder for Miss Hortense, and I think that it really could work for people who like the Thursday Murder Club. I think it's better, but that's because of my own preferences when it comes to writing style and narrative structure. It's just so enjoyable at the moment. I really love the multiple perspectives. We do get inside the head of Miss Hortense. She is our main character. She's our sleuth. She's a nurse who ended up coming to England in 1960, and she at one point was the lead organizer of the Partner Network. This is a network that is dedicated to Black investors, investing in Black voices, Black businesses, and she was ousted unceremoniously, you know, decades ago, 30 some years ago. And now someone in the network has recently died. Another person is discovered murdered in that person's home. And everyone is turning to Miss Hortense asking her, can you help us out? Because right now the community is suffering and the Partner Network is at risk. And so she and other characters within this book are trying to get down to the bottom of this. And part of that is requiring them to sift through some, you know, scars, old wounds that haven't healed properly, mysteries that haven't fully been solved. And one of those mysteries involves a killer that was never caught. He would leave a piece of paper with his victims, and that piece of paper would be in reference to a particular passage in the Bible. So Miss Hortense feels as though she has the weight on her shoulders, not only for the present victims and potential future victims, but in finding justice for those who were killed in the past. I am just so invested. I think that there are moments of humor, moments of joy, as well as hope, but we also have to deal with some really dark elements because we are in a city, because we are dealing with an immigrant population that the police have not been helping. And I think it's really well done. I think that it is a book that people should be talking about, but I really haven't been seeing anyone read it. So again, only 40% of the way through the book, but we will see. By the end of this, I have really high hopes and really high expectations that I'll be able to recommend it to Bree, but also the rest of you. Well, I did in fact finish A Murder for Miss Hortense, and what's amazing is it is the first in a series. I loved this book so much. It was so fun. I cannot recommend it enough on audio, especially if you are someone who wants to feel the immersion of the accents, of the deliveries of the lines. I just think that the voice narrator does a really great job. I know that some people have had issues with reading the physical copy simply because of the way that the dialogue is written. It follows the linguistic patterns and the syntax of those who are of Jamaican descent. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I just think it adds to the entire narrative tenfold. The mystery was really well plotted. I think that it all wrapped up really well in the end. There was some tragic moments, but also moments of levity, of closure, and I'm just really happy with where we leave off with Miss Hortense by the end of the book. Truly, you learned so much about the characters, not only Miss Hortense, but Blossom, and Sonia seems like a character who may or may not return. We also have Camille and Jasmine and Fitz, and there's clearly more to the story, more to this group of people, this found family, while also the ending ends up having us basically jump right into the next mystery from what I can tell, which is super exciting. So if you are someone who enjoys modern mysteries, cozy mysteries, but it does get dark, especially when we are discussing what comes with domestic violence, living in a community that can't necessarily depend on the police to assist them when there are injustices, as well as decades upon decades of trauma, then I just note that it's cozy, but it's also something that the author doesn't shy away from. The author isn't afraid to have us dig into darker topics. Not to mention that because we are dealing with a group of people who are Jamaican immigrants, of course we are going to touch upon racism, the way some of these characters have been treated in modern times, but also decades ago, and how that seeps into the foundation of a community, and how they are constantly having to make sure that they can support each other. If they can't, the world is against them. So I really like how the author handled that as well, and make sure, again, not to shy away from the discussions of racism, generational racism, and how this community had to support each other to build a community in the first place, make sure that they could own homes and have businesses that flourished. So I just think it was really well done. Brie, Loc'd Booktician, I officially recommend this book to you, and I'm so pleased that it worked out. And now I am kind of going to be cleaning about today. I've got like books and things everywhere just to show a little bit of my apartment. I don't want to show the honestly kind of train wreck, the disaster that is my apartment. But while I am cleaning about and getting organized, my hope is to read one more book for this vlog, and that's going to be Glory Be. This is by Danielle Arsenault, the second book to this cozy mystery series, just came out this year. And actually Servasha, one of my Manor guests and one of my big supporters here on YouTube, is a huge fan of the series, says that it just gets better and better, and I'm really, really excited to read it. I'm about 20% in. I want to wait to read a little bit further before I divulge my thoughts and what I'm thinking, but I will say so far it's been a really fun listen. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and hopefully by the end of this vlog I'll have 2 books that I can recommend to Brie herself. I am officially a third of the way through Glory Be, and it's the same day. By the way, I just got cold in my apartment, so I put on this very cozy jumper, which does feel as though it's fitting, because at this point, this is a very cozy mystery. There are some darker moments, specifically regarding, just for me, regarding the treatment of animals. We also have mentions of drugs, so drug use, drug dealing, gambling, and that is actually very similar to A Murder for Miss Hortense. I don't think I ever mentioned this, but drugs are referenced among other illicit activities, kind of organized crime. I think that is happening in both books, so we do have that through line. This is being compared to Thursday Murder Club as well. I think it's more of a marketing scheme compared to A Murder for Miss Hortense. I think that one is a comparable title. This one just feels very American cozy mystery. So if you tend to like cozy mysteries that are written by American writers, that have the very typical tropes that you expect in a cozy American mystery, then yes, totally works for you. And this is where it gets hit or miss for me. I'm appreciating it at the moment though, especially because I like Glory, our main character. She is in the title, Glory Be, but she's also our main character, Glory Broussard. And I love the setup of the beginning of the book. She arrives at this local cafe, this local coffee shop owned by a Black man that she's known for quite some time. And he is just used to her coming by every single Sunday, running her business, we'll say. She is a bookie, so she does have clients coming to her every single Sunday after church. So she's also a churchgoer, but every Sunday after church, she finds her typical table, her usual table at this cafe, gets her usual order, and then she has people come in placing bets on various races, various games, and that's just how she spends her weeks. It's pretty much her bigger social occasion at this point, because I believe she was taking care of her mother. When her mother passed, she became a bit of an empty nester. She was married at one point and has a daughter named Delphine who is visiting, but unfortunately, her daughter visits under really horrific circumstances for a funeral, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So she pretty much has this really lovely life. I just think that honestly, Glory seems a little bit lonely. We'll see if that tends to be the theme throughout the book, if she finds her own kind of community, or at least realizes that she isn't necessarily alone. And I guess she really wasn't alone at the beginning of the book, because she has this close friend named Amity who is a nun, and they have been friends for decades, for years and years. They've seen each other through thick and thin. They've seen Amity at her worst when she was addicted to drugs, a bit of a partier, and then Amity decided to change her ways, get clean, and she became a nun, and they remained thick as thieves. And this is where it gets quite sad, because we discover that Amity has died, and at the moment it appears as though she took her own life. This sounds completely unorthodox to Glory, because she knows her best friend, and her best friend had so much to live for. She was not only an active member in the church as a nun in her community, but she also was an advocate for environmentalism, because we know, at least hopefully a good amount of us know, how prevalent environmental racism is. It really is a thing. Look it up. I was very lucky to take a course during my master's in environmental racism, and I just found it so thoughtful. A handful of titles that I can recommend off the bat include Solar Storms, There's also Pleasantville. If you need recommendations, obviously Google is your friend as well, but I think it's such an important topic, and I love when literature is able to capture that, especially a cozy mystery, because I think that it gets a bad rap. A lot of times people assume it can't cover really important topics, and cozies certainly can, especially regarding the environment. Another good example that didn't really work for me, but Spell Shop, that's a really popular title in the cozy fantasy sphere, and while I didn't really like the book, I loved the theme of discussing protecting the environment and how it really is kind of this issue of those in the cities don't really see it as often, or those who are in wealthy positions don't notice the damage that they are causing to the environment. It's actually those who are in rural areas, who are impoverished, or just in poverty in city locations. It's just this whole thing. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but I think this is so important, and I really love that this author, Danielle Arsenault, is covering it. But anyway, this is one of the main reasons it doesn't make sense for Amity to actually take her own life. So Glory takes it upon herself to investigate. She found drugs in Amity's home, and that is suspicious because Amity had been clean for quite some time, and she knows the one person that Amity might have gotten the drugs from, and that was an old flame back in the day, a man who is very much steeped in organized crime. And so they end up going off, interrogating him a little bit, and other things have happened. There's been a lot of personal drama in Glory's life, but also in her daughter's life, because it seems as though we have Delphine helping out Glory. We have a bit of a duo investigative team going on, but Delphine is keeping some secrets from her mom. She is struggling. She actually is having a divorce with her husband. And again, her mom doesn't know this just yet. I'm imagining she will eventually tell her, but there's just a lot happening. And I think that there's a good balance of familial issues, interpersonal problems, like different types of conflict, in addition to the A plot still being the mystery, still trying to find justice for Amity. So yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to finish this book because it's been flying by, but I will let you guys know my thoughts when I finish, and hopefully we have 2 for 2 great recommendations that I can provide Bree. We'll just have to see what happens. A couple days ago, I finished Glory Be by Danielle Arsenault, and there's a lot to really enjoy about this mystery. It's cozy. It's definitely very cozy, which won't work for everybody. That is a subgenre within the mystery umbrella that can be hit or miss for me, but I really liked Glory, our amateur sleuth. I loved her big personality, the fact that her heart is in the right place, even though she's a bit gray herself, being a bookie of all things. And I loved that she was, above all else, seeking justice for her oldest friend, Amity. There's also a great story arc regarding environmental racism, and I loved Glory taking part in that. We had a court case, and it was just done really well. It just shows that cozies can handle really big, serious topics, and you just have to put your trust in the author to do said topic justice. So it was all really well done. The only thing that I had a major issue with, and that's why I have mixed feelings with whether or not I could even recommend this to Bree, is that there is a side story arc with Delphine, Glory's daughter, and she is just continually participating in infidelity, and I don't get it. I say continually, it happens twice, but it just shows that she's not learning anything from her past mistakes. So as a lawyer up in New York City, she ends up starting an affair with a coworker. It blows up in her face. Her husband, who wasn't a great guy, there was an element of, I will call it, mental and emotional abuse that was quite startling, and it wasn't discussed in thorough detail, but you could tell that it was an unhappy marriage, and Delphine is probably better not with him. But the fact that she has this affair, it almost ruins her career. The law firm threatens to basically fire her if she doesn't clean up her act, and they force her to go on a sabbatical, hence why she is down south in Louisiana with her mother. While she's there, she helps out the local sheriff, kind of an old friend, I think from high school. He is dealing with some like legal things regarding buying a new property. One thing leads to another, and she sleeps with him. Having met his wife, having met his daughter, saying that he's a great father, and yet he commits infidelity with her. It doesn't really go beyond that, but the casualness of them kind of addressing, being like, well, you know, we did that, not gonna do it again, love you, and they just go off, and I'm like, there is no consequences to this, and he's not a good man. he's not a good man simply because he's going to stay with his wife after committing infidelity. Can you imagine explaining that to your daughter? Is she going to think that you're a good man for that? And Delphine doesn't even really pause to think, why have I done this twice? Because the coworker also was married. And so I'm just like, I don't really understand why this would be in the story at all, because it has nothing to do with the mystery as well. It has nothing to do with trying to find out who murdered Amity. So it really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I'm told that in the second book, Glory Days, we do have a bit of a story arc following Delphine as she's doing some soul searching, figuring out her identity, maybe having some personal growth. But it really just rubbed me the wrong way. And so that's why I don't know if that's going to be kind of a non-negotiable, not even touching this book for Bree. But for me, I would be hesitant recommending that to people, because I personally think that whenever we are dealing with affairs or infidelity as a theme in a book, it cannot be done by the people we like. It can't be done by the characters we're supposed to root for, because that is a horrible thing to do no matter what. So yeah, like that really sucks. And it sucks specifically that this is the book we have to end the vlog on, but I don't really have much more time to try new narratives that Bree may not have read. So Bree, I will say that I can confidently recommend A Murder for Miss Hortense. I think you're gonna really appreciate it, especially with the emphasis on Jamaican culture, being a Jamaican immigrant in London, or not in London, in Birmingham, and just like the way that this community navigates it. The partner network, Miss Hortense herself, Blossom, a few other really kind of standout characters. It's a really fun mystery that I don't think is getting enough love right now. So I will leave you with that specific recommendation. I'm also going to provide a couple other recommendations just in case, because I don't know if you'll be as sensitive as I was to the infidelity element in Glory Be. So we're just going to throw out some more titles, and one of those is Black is the Body by Emily Bernard. This is nonfiction, but I think it is so fascinating when Bernard discusses her own relationship as a Black professor in Vermont, a predominantly white university and a predominantly white state, and how she is raising her children, her daughters, and just the discussions of her own relationship with race, especially because she was raised in the South. Like I said, it's nonfiction. It can be read almost and treated as essays, in my opinion. But yes, I read this a handful of years ago. I've taught this as a professor as well, and I think that like anyone who's read it is going to really appreciate it. Another title I'm going to recommend, and unfortunately I didn't grab it from my shelf, is The Intuitionist by Colson Whitehead. I love this book to bits. I reread it a year or two ago, and it still stood the test of time. It is the first book by Colson Whitehead, his debut. I just think it missed its chance in the light because it was before he was super well known, and I think this is his best book written. I've only read 2 other books by him, but The Intuitionist remains my favorite. So if you haven't gone to his backlist yet, that's another recommendation I'll have for you. Oh wait, one last recommendation, and this is because I ended up reading this during Blackoween last October thanks to Bree's readathon, and that is Ruin Road by Lamar Giles. This is YA horror. I don't typically read YA, so I went in a bit hesitantly, but it blew me away. I want to read more by this author. I really loved the discussion surrounding making a deal with the devil, the fact that we have a young protagonist, a young Black man, having to navigate the world and hating that society, media, American culture in general these days does pit the young Black man against the world, telling us that we should be fearful of him, that he needs to watch every single move he makes for fear of causing attention or having people lash out because he would be blamed for whatever happens. It's just a really powerful narrative that I think is really important for a YA audience, but really for anyone. YA doesn't have to be for the YA age reader. It's going to be powerful. So I highly recommend it. Not sure, Bree, if you've already read it, but if you haven't, I think you're going to find it amazing. All right, that's it for me, folks. Thank you so much to Bree for hosting July Noir. I had a great time investigating a few of these new books that you recommended to me. The Dead Cattail Assassins I want to own, and I want to read more by P. Jelly Clark. I also really liked The Scourge Between Stars as a palate cleanser sci-fi horror, and for our romance readers out there, Romantic Agenda should work for you. I'm just not a romance reader, so it makes sense that I didn't feel wowed by it, but the ace representation is amazing. Thank you all so much for getting to the end. I really do appreciate you. Be sure to check out Bree, check out her channel, subscribe to her, especially because we do have Blackoween coming up in just a couple of months. And also, if you made it to the end and you don't really have anything to say, you're not really feeling chatty, how about, in honor of the Dead Cattail Assassins, provide any type of mask emojis in the comments. Thank you all so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!